Hello. Well, once again, I'm going to be telling you, or rather reminding you, of the importance of speaking out. And it's only when people speak out and don't act like embarrassed sheep that things start to change. And I'll give you an example, one more from my multivaried life, and also a couple of examples from here, because coincidentally, they happen to turn up at around the same time. So this was a little clip in the Telegraph, grave reaction, it says here, to Garden's stinking rich art installation. And it says here, art exhibits depicting billionaires on tomb covers have been removed following complaints that they upset visitors. Well, this is what this reporter says, that they upset visitors. She didn't say, I think that's a woman, she didn't say that this was visitors being justifiably outraged at having gone to an art exhibition and being given a lecture on how horrible rich people are. But that's basically what happened, and good for them. The work by Andrew Swann, entitled Stinking Rich, The Cost of Wealth, is on display at Gardens in Cornwall and explores the impact of extreme wealth on the environment and society. Each piece is focused on the activities of 4 British-based billionaires, James Dyson, Jim Ratcliffe, Kirsten Rousing and Denise Coates. And what's happened is they've been put up like sort of Aunt Sally's for a 4-minute hate session. They are each represented on 4 plinths that resemble tomb covers, like medieval tomb covers. I'll get to that in a minute, and are accompanied by panels of information for the onlooker to interpret. And, again, this reporter not being strictly honest, information on what to interpret. So far as I can make out, the information is telling people how terrible these people are, how much of their environmental impact. I would like to point out that the place, Trebor Gardens, where this exhibition was held, had been owned by very rich people and had then devolved to the use of the general public. If those very rich people hadn't actually started the gardens, there wouldn't have been anything there. That seems to have completely escaped Mr. Swann's attention. And he says, I'm just a little bewildered by the visitor reaction to the topic of extreme wealth and the impact it's having on our environment. When anybody starts using the environment in that way, you can be absolutely sure that they're not being honest. Really, I'm serious. And I'm, hanging around with farmers all the time. I keep forgetting it's there. I hang around with farmers all the time. I know quite a lot about the environment. And I hang around with people who do things about the environment, don't just talk and try to whip up hate using the environment as an excuse. Right, this is more explanatory. It says here, environmental artwork removed from Trebor Gardens as it's too depressing. This is from Cornwall Live. Andrew Swann's work, Stinking Rich, well, you all know about that. And these are the tomb covers. And he's got these people. Now, let's see. I don't have it here. I'm sorry about that. It shows one of the female subjects. It's this one, but you can't really see it that clearly. She's holding an expensive handbag. It's just awful. Basically, it's a cartoon. It's a Marxist cartoon. As a Marxist cartoon, fine. As an artwork, pants. Okay. Oh, before I carry on, I shall tell you, I'm granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter and Gab. That's where I let you know when I've uploaded a new video. Subscribe to one of those, at granniopteryx on Twitter or Gab, because YouTube tends to be a bit lackadaisical about informing you of new uploads. I have been told. All right, next, yeah, there are all the links are in the description, and there are also links to donation sites if you want to use them. But really, just click that like button and you help my channel a lot. So do that. Okay, an environmental artist. And look, you're an artist. You're an artist. That's what you are. Now, there have been paintings that have shown social ills or problems. For instance, there's a painting by Van Gogh called The Potato Eaters, and it shows a group of very poor people eating potatoes. And you think, yeah, maybe they shouldn't be in that sort of nutritional poverty. And there's another one, a 19th century one, I don't remember now which one it was. It was one of the Impressionists. And I think it was called The Laundress, and it shows a woman over an ironing board, and she's sort of doing that. You can see her back's aching, and she's still got to go on working. That's social commentary. That's not teaching you a lesson. It's good art, and it's showing you something that you might wish to take away with you afterwards. But that's it. It's not didactic like this is. That's why a lot of Soviet art is rubbish, because it's just didactic. Anyway, he was shocked, it says here, when his work was removed from an exhibition in a Cornwall subtropical garden because guests found it depressing. No, they found it insulting. They may have used the word depressing, but they were insulted. They were offended. Now, this is what Andrew Swann says. I started with the richest man in Britain, which was James Dyson, the richest woman in Britain, which was Kirsten. What does this have to do with anything at all to do with art? It's just probably because they wouldn't commission him to do a portrait of them. Alongside the plinth, there's an A3 panel with information about each subject based on research that I did. I haven't expressed an opinion. Yeah, but where did you get that research from? That's the point. You can say you've done research, but it's where you choose the research from that gives your opinion on it. This is the guy looking all purposeful and arty. Oh yeah, I was looking for this particular quote. Andrew continued, I think a lot of it is to do with greed. Yeah. Possibly a lot is to do with envy. These billionaires have made their money. One thing I realized when I did my research, yeah, here, he's always talking about research. I'll show him some research in a minute, is there's a balance between one person gaining something and a cost down the line. That's classical Marxist economics. The national wealth is a pie, and some people get a bigger slice of the pie, and that means others get a smaller slice. No, it doesn't work like that. Every time someone does something, there's a cost to something. Look, Andrew, you might be a good artist. I don't know. From what I've seen, you seem like a good workman. I'm not so sure about being a good artist. You might be a good artist, but you are not a social commentator. Just stick to what you know. And here, this is from the Institute for Economic Affairs. The rich get richer and the poor get richer, it says here. And it quotes the General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress that Britain is a country full of inequality and social mobility has ground to a halt, and the Guardian tells us Britain is Europe's sweatshop where we put in the longest hours in the EU and all the rest of it. Well, yeah, you can do that much research and then you can discover that it says here, yeah, the picture is only slightly different. If we look at full-time employment, full-time workers in Britain put in an average of 42.6 hours a week, and that's 8.5 hours a day if we assume 5 working days a week. This is only 13 minutes more than the EU average. So, yeah, you can say they put in more than anyone else. Actually, they put in more than the average, which means there are others that do more. I believe Turkey is something like 46 hours. And it's shorter than the average working week in Australia, Austria, Greece, Iceland, and New Zealand. So you can take your research so far and then you have a problem, don't you? Now, I was going to talk about the value of speaking out, and it's this. This is an article in The Spectator. There was an exhibition at the Tate Britain and the National Portrait Gallery, and according to this chap here, Calvin Poe, who is Chinese, or rather at least his father is, and he is a refugee basically from Hong Kong, because Hong Kong, having been taken over by the socialist paradise of the CCP, is now no longer fit for living in, according to the way he feels about it. Certainly not fit for expressing your own thoughts. And he says that new displays at Tate Britain and the National Portrait Gallery are pious distortions of history. It appears what's going on is that the portraits that are being shown, there are homilies next to them talking about the evils of the slave trade, or how terrible these rich people were who commissioned these portraits and that sort of thing. And he ends with this: the parting shot is in Tate Art's Now Room for emerging artists. Before us sits an empty acrylic glass cube, a work by Ria Dillon that's meant to represent everything from imprisonment, breath lost, stolen, and from black subjects. Don't know what that means. It probably doesn't mean anything, so don't even try. And environmental racism, to the link between the climate crisis and the birth of the transatlantic slave trade. I mean, it's absolute rubbish. Now, I want to tell you what happened to me. It was the Tate Gallery, and I was at I was just looking around, and I noticed that the leaflet that I'd been given that told me about the paintings was full of slang. And I actually complained. And I got an answer back, well, we thought this would bring it closer to the people. And I responded, no. There are lots of people in this gallery who don't understand English all that well. They certainly don't understand slang. You are taking it further from the people, because we have visitors from abroad. And there will be people who don't understand London slang anyway. They come from Yorkshire and they don't really know what various words are, or they don't see the reason for talking in slang about a painting that was made in the 17th century. And you know what? They actually changed the leaflet. So I was glad about that. But it wouldn't surprise me if the person who did that is now one of the people in charge of this sort of an exhibit. And people don't go to art exhibitions to be lectured to. They go to appreciate good craftsmanship, and sometimes they see something that touches their hearts, and it might make them think about social conditions or anything like, you know, that sort of thing. But that's because of the art, not because some museum curator is pushing it or some artist is shoving it at me in my face. It's a disgrace. And more people like those guys in Cornwall, good on you, you Cornish people. You did the right thing. This is the sort of thing, I'm not saying shut up about people who want to talk about social conditions. I'm saying if you're an artist, convey your message with art. Don't put messages next to it. That means you haven't done your job. Okay, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or granbow with a firearm, or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com, and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.